I'm just going to say Bundy because I'm good mates with him.
And
He's an exciting character as well. He's good energy, so I think they'd get good content from him.
And is there somebody they should avoid then as well?
Probably Bundy.
Joe presents House of Rugby, together with Bank of Ireland, proud supporter of the 4 Irish provinces.
Hello and welcome back to House of Rugby, together with Bank of Ireland. I'm Greg O'Shea and the band is back together. I'm here with the lovely Lindsay Pete and Jason Hennessy. How are you getting on, guys? Lindsay first.
Great. Had a great weekend now. Full of rugby. I never thought I'd hear myself say that was just way too much sport to keep
There's
a
so
handle
much
of.
going on, and you were covering the women's games as well.
Yeah, had a great time. Thanks to TG Carr. We were up at the sports ground. We covered Connacht and your beloved Munster lads, and they were exceptional. It was a really great game, except I was freezing. I had these pants on and like Under Armour. I was layered to the gills, and I was still cold.
Yeah.
But great weekend of sport all around.
Shout out to the girls. 3 from 3. Munster won the Interprovincial, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we'll probably go into a little bit more, but I just thought Munster were exceptional. It's so hard to play against a team who keep the ball moving, and they really obviously did their homework with they cut Connacht open with the tip-on pass, because Connacht are very physical and they were making line breaks, and their running lines of support were absolutely exceptional. So I thought they were a joy to watch, and it kills me to say, but they were deserved winners with a clean sweep.
Good stuff. The Munster ladies doing well. And Jason, you're obviously glued to the Munster men who pushed Toulouse, 5 times champions, to the wire, but we lost 2016. What do you make of it?
It was a good game. I mean, I have to say. I mean, I know you said it like it was like watching. I hate to say it was like watching Leinster at times. Really, wasn't it? Sometimes. I mean, it was very much JOE. Like, I mean, you didn't know which team was the French team. I think at times, and like that's something we haven't seen from Munster in a very long time. Disappointing to get the loss. I think Joey probably should have kicked a few of those kicks. John Hodnett was absolutely incredible. Some real standout performances across in the backs and in the forwards. Look, we'll get onto that a bit later as well, but perhaps there should have been a red card for Toulouse on around the 26-minute mark that could have made a difference. But we're qualified. But we do have the small matter of the Sharks away from home. The way things worked out, thanks to that late try in the Edinburgh Saracens game. Yeah, we could have had Edinburgh, so like, no offence to Edinburgh, I much would have preferred to play Edinburgh now than the Sharks over
Well, even the travel, let alone who the Sharks have, and Khaleesi and Cole. Like.
Yeah, so look, as I said, we're qualified, I think. Toulouse, our first game against Toulouse at the start, like, and then having to bounce back, and those 2 big wins against, especially that away win against Southampton, like that was a tough slog. Remember that 20-minute period of defence. So they're looking good. Craig Casey given an opportunity to play a bit more, and he was heavily involved
he was brilliant.
in that try. So no, it's good to see.
What do you think about discipline? Because I thought there was poor penalties when they were under pressure to give away and kickable, and I think that was kind of the difference, wasn't it?
Yeah, to a certain extent, yeah. I mean, what do you think, Greg?
Well, I was going to say, before we get completely stuck into it, our producer Pat has an interview with Robbie Henshaw coming up later in the show, and we hopefully have a chat with Josh Van der Vlier that I might have to run away to. The Irish team are jumping on the plane to go to Portugal camp for Six Nations, so that
we won't be offended that you're just like legging it and leaving us, so don't worry about it.
He is the best player in the world, so I think he comes first before everyone else in the rugby world at the moment.
So, yeah.
And he is a nice guy.
It's not a bad guess to be getting like just a small matter of the World Player of the Year, like, yeah.
Exactly. So we have those coming up later in the show, so stay tuned. But to talk about the Toulouse and Munster game, I think overall it actually is quite positive for Munster. To go away to Toulouse, which is a fortress, and to only lose by 4 points. They're 5 times champions, one of the best teams in the world, have Anton Dupont, all the top boys, Jaminet, all the top players in French rugby kind of play with Toulouse. And if Joey had got those 2 kicks, it would have been a draw, which would have been an amazing result away.
That's the thing, yeah. But like, I suppose, like, I mean, you look at the match overall, like missing those 2 kicks. I mean, they were leading with 60 minutes gone. They were leading by 4, wasn't it? And then they got 2 late penalties. Ben Healy went into the sin bin. That doesn't help. But I mean,
what do you think of that? I know he was leaning. It did look like he was leaning with his arm, but it was, I don't know. It was kind of like he was stopped, so he was kind of just nearly protecting the ball. And I know the laws, and we were kind of saying about consistency, but on some level I thought it was harsh a little bit on him.
Yeah, I think, as I said, like, go back to that Joey Carbery incident, like, that was a hell of a lot worse. I mean, he got they showed it on BT Sport, and you'll see it on Twitter, and it was a very high, like, shoulder into the chin, and it wasn't even checked.
No.
Which brings us back to our French TMOs and our French stadiums.
Dodgy wires.
There's no replays in France, I don't think. So, to me, yeah, but like, Joey missing those kicks, I mean, that goes back to, the big news of him getting dropped from the Ireland squad. And we were only talking a few weeks back about Ross Byrne coming on and nailing that kick. And you look at Jack Crowley's kicking record has been good. I think whatever it is, since Joey got that injury, that first bad injury at Munster a couple of years back, I remember he went on a run of games where he broke a record. It was something like 23 or 24 kicks in a row. Yeah. Since he's come back from that, like, his kicking has been very up and down, because we know he's an accomplished kicker. But he's missed a lot of big kicks for Munster, and maybe that's one of the reasons he was left out. Because form-wise, look at the Troy as Crossfield. He's around the pitch. He's been playing well. Yeah. But if you can't hit those kicks, I'm sorry. At the end of the day, like, when you're a 10, number one job is place kicking. It's like a hooker that can't throw. Like, that's your job. And if you can't, and Ross Byrne has an excellent kicking record with Leinster, and he's done it with Ireland as well. So I don't know. Maybe that's why he was left out.
And it wasn't Taylor 210s the weekend, wasn't it? Because Ross Byrne was just like flown. He was like a Porsche. He was just fluid. And then we've Joey. Even the crossfield kick, he nearly overcooked it. And John Hogna had good hands, because at that stage they did 3-on-1. He could have actually dropped it just in between John Hogna. I think it was Ty Byrne then waiting. So I don't know. He's just a man who's lacking confidence. And then I'm kind of thinking on the way into the show this morning, I was like, how do you handle him now? How do you handle him? Are you letting him go because you want him to get a run of games? Because now he's going to be in a break with no competition. Or has Andy Farrell fed back to him what he needs? But, when you feed back to a player what they need, then they need games. So I'm kind of like, now he's in limbo. It's a strange one, isn't it? Yeah, so what do you do?
Yeah, well, I think it would have been such a difficult mental battle for Joey on the weekend to go out against Toulouse, away to Toulouse, after being in the media all week, not getting selected for the Six Nations team. It's been years since he hasn't been picked in the Six Nations team. When he's fit, or an Irish team, when he's fit, he gets picked. But it's just Ross Byrne, as you said, has been so consistent, Lindsay, and it kind of, someone has to lose out. You have to draw the line somewhere. And I presume Joey's going to be the next one in straight away if one of the boys does, touch wood, get a knock. But I can only imagine him going to Toulouse, wanting it so badly to play well. And probably just the pressure that might have just forgot his kicking boots on the day. But I thought around the park he did play all right.
He did, yeah.
He did. He was exceptional. And that's the thing. He's such a talented rugby player. You willing him on. But he just hasn't had that consistency. And I do think the question will always stand over him, is his best position like 10 or 15? Because when you see him at full back and he's allowed kind of express himself and play, he's exceptional. But it does come back then, your 10 needs to be your kicker. Yeah. And that's probably the game he needs to. So, and yet you can see him in warm-ups and different games where he's hitting over kicks that he shouldn't. So it's there, the talent's there. And then, you can't, look, Jack Crowley, congratulations. He's come out of absolutely nowhere. He seems a lad who's just rugby mad, and it's kind of this fairy tale story. So, look, you have to go on consistency. We could name loads, even Ulster over the weekend. Kieran Treadwell's not in, James Hume, and we've spoken about these players who come out of nowhere, but it's peaks and troughs, and if you're playing well, you have to be in.
Exactly. In fairness to Jack Crowley, he's taking his opportunity with both hands, and he's having his breakout season, and he played about 3 or 4 positions on the weekend. He started at 12, then went to 15, then went to 10. What an unbelievable player to have in your Irish squad, isn't it, Jason?
I think it's probably the reason he's in there as well. I think it's interesting to see that when you've got Joey, because you were saying Joey's always picked. Joey's when he's fit. Joey's been picked sometimes when he's not fit. Look at the World Cup when Joe Smith brought him over. He wasn't even fit and he still brought him over. Yeah. But Crowley has been playing 12 a lot for Munster. I know he kind of, when Carbery would start 10 and Crowley would be 12, and then Crowley would normally be Carbery that comes off and he'll play 20, 30 minutes at 10. But it's interesting to see that he's played so much at 12 this year, yet he's still being brought up as the second forward / third choice out half. We don't know, we could be first choice out half and Johnny could be held back in the wings. But it's interesting to see that he's been brought in over Carbery. Maybe it is because he is that 10, 12, 15 option. And if you can play at 10, 12, 15, you can probably play on the wing as well. Probably stick him in at 13 as well if you wanted to, you know what I mean? So that's another thing we are looking at. We said it last week, you only have a 34-man squad going over to a World Cup. So to be able to play those extra positions in those midweek, those lesser games, shall we say, so that you can rotate your squad around, because I know they've extended the period now where you have to have a minimum of 6 days off between games in the World Cup, which is fantastic, thank God. But 34 players isn't an awful lot, especially if you have a big bruiser match against South Africa, and then you're kind of okay, we need to switch everyone out for this next game against, I don't know what the schedule is again, I can't remember, because it could be South Africa and then Tonga. So maybe that's why he's brought in there, but he's taken it with both hands.
He has, yeah. And in relation to the Joey thing, I thought rubbing salt in the wound is when they took him off and put Ben Healy on. And I was just like, all right, get the most out of Ben before he goes over to Edinburgh. But do we really need him coming on? Like, he's not going to be Munster next year. He's
playing well, though.
He's playing for Scotland. I know, but now
He's
I'm
thinking
looking
about the result in his head. He's not thinking about the long term.
He's not thinking long term.
His immediate job
here.
was to beat Toulouse.
Yeah,
and
that's
at the time
true.
it looked like, and he did look, he played well. Well, I know he got yellow carded and
Well,
stuff.
he came on and got yellow carded.
Yeah, okay, we can't, but he did actually play kind of well better than
What
that.
did you make of that, Lindsay? You were a good ball carrier back in your day.
Well,
I probably had the elbow up myself, but it could have got off. But no, to be fair, look, we're kind of like, as I said, you're Will and Joey Carbery on, but then you have to have the clinical coach and head on. And Graham Roundtree, I'd hate to be making the decisions you have to. And it is a hard one. It's kind of like, I don't know. I don't want to pick a personal, like someone your ex is picking your new boyfriend over and you bring them to dinner, do you know? And it's kind of a hard one, isn't it? So, look, at this stage, it's the bigger picture about Munster, and I think they could have won that game. Just little, you can't go 11-0 down. You can't have ill discipline. You can't have yellow cards in big games like that. And you get few opportunities are few and far between to beat Toulouse. So, look, I think it was a hard one, but Ben Healy came on to do a job, and under the yellow card, he could have got them over the line.
Yeah, he could have, and he would have been a great person to have on the pitch for kicking as well.
I was thinking exactly.
That's probably why he came on.
Yeah.
But speaking about more pivotal moments in the game, I thought Fekitoa finally started showing his value.
Thank you.
The best. He actually came on, and that second half in particular, I was like, okay, well, where's this been all season? Like, because this is why we were getting, and you're on, no doubt he's on the big bucks. We all know he's not. He didn't come cheap.
Exactly.
So that's what we wanted to see. So look, I mean, hopefully he kicks on, because to have a fit and firing and form Malachi Fekitoa, this is a former All Black we're talking about. This is a guy that's played for Toulon, played for Wasps. He's a superstar. We know what he's capable of, because he wouldn't be getting those contracts in the first place if he wasn't that good, and he was. But what do you think of him?
No, I'm glad you said it, because I was like looking at it going, this fella now all of a sudden is really involved, and I'm like, it's nice to see. And, you know, his offload to Coombs, and that's what Munster need, as well as his experience and his expertise and his flair.
Pretty former All Black.
Absolutely. But is he going to now be a Malcolm Marks for you and come off the bench and now he's just going to really ignite you? Or is he going to start from the start? And I think that's going to be up to him. But like, what suits him now is that he's not getting it all his own way.
The kick up the arse has helped him. Like. I think he needed that kick up the arse.
Yeah.
Go, I don't care whether you're Malachi Fekitoa or not. If you ain't good enough, like, they weren't even benching him. He was out of the squad completely.
And rightly so, he's out of the squad, because he wasn't doing anything.
No,
yeah, but he seems to have figured out how to work in the Munster team, and he was kind of a catalyst for a lot of good plays on the weekend. You saw he was crashing up hard for the one that ended up in Ty Burns' try. He crashed up from their own 22 and made about 20 yards, and then they worked all the way down the pitch. And his time when he sucked in two players and popped it off to Coombs, as you're saying there, Lindsay, which is like, this is exactly what we need.
Yeah.
So like him and Frisch in the centre, which would be incredible. Do you think Fekitoa will continue on in this form?
I don't know. I hope so. I mean, like, it's nice to have that option there. Like, I mean, like, Frisch probably didn't have his best game against Toulouse, but he's been probably our better centre going along. And then, like, you know, I mean, if an injury happens to Joey or Jack or something, like, Jack might not always be covered at 12. Like, I think Jack is going to be more of a 10 going forward. So you could have the two boys inside there. But I think the big thing is, like, it's massively interesting to see, because we were just saying there, he wasn't even making the bench. Keith Earls didn't even make the squad again the weekend. Conor Murray was back in. Like, Roundtree, and like last week he dropped Conor Murray. He's not afraid, like, to drop Conor Murray, Keith Earls and Malachi Fekitoa. 3 seasoned, like Murray and Earls are back in the Ireland squad, and they got dropped out of the Munster squad. Yeah. I like that, because it's just like, it doesn't matter who you are. I mean, he could turn around some week, and if Peter Mahoney isn't playing well, he'll drop him. He will, like, because if he's willing to drop Fekitoa, Murray and Earls, he's playing guys on form. So it doesn't matter who you are, which is good. And Munster need that bit of fire in their belly, kind of going, you can't just live off your name. If you're playing shite, you're dropped.
No, 100%. I feel like he has steel cap boots going around the place, just absolutely lamping boys up the arse. You know, like, oh, you're not playing well, good luck, you're out.
He's a scary character. Like, you know, by looking at him, like, it's just...
Oh, he's a forward. He's a prop. He's going around and going.
He's been around the block. Like he's met everyone in the lines and stuff. I'd say he doesn't care what your name is, who you are. If you're not performing, you're not in. Which is probably what Munster need.
They do. 100%.
But it builds a culture. It's a bigger culture that no one's walking. You know, like the cock of the walk here, walking around like I'm. You know, Malachi Fekitoa. I'm here. I'm the All Black. Like he's not. He's humbled. I'd say there's like a ceiling on the lads and their egos. And do you know that is something that is stand out for me with Leinster, and that everything, you're only as good as your last game. You're always in competition with the fella who's up for that jersey. It comes off your back, it's hung back up for everyone to fight for next week. And I think that's I think it's everyone's hungry. That's the difference now with Munster. There's some great ball playing, but everyone's hungry to play. And it looks like they're enjoying themselves. That's a huge difference
Exactly,
as well.
yeah. Well, you touched on it there. The way they're playing offensively is beautiful. Like whatever Roundtree's game plan and Prendergast, these passes out the back, the flicks, they all seem to be expressing themselves. Shane Daly's having a field day every time he gets the ball, jumping back in, offloading. Tyke Burns kicking the ball when he wants to. Like, it's just incredible. They seem to be playing like happy.
Yes.
Which is cool to see. Like, it's good away to Toulouse and only lose by 4 points and to be missing all your kicks. It's actually a good result, Jason, from Munster.
It's credit to Mike Prendergast, I think we're not giving him enough credit, because we brought in Stephen Larkham, like, and all the talk about Stephen Larkham, who's like, one of the best players we've ever seen, came over from Australia, and then like nothing was said about Mike Prendergast. Like, oh, is that a downgrade? It's like, hell, obviously not, because he's done an excellent job at Racing, and he was with. Was he with before that? He was with Grenoble for a while. Was he in? He's been a few different French teams. So, I mean, credit to Dennis Leamy. They seem to have finally got a good coach ticket together and brought it back to where we need to be. Like, as I said, we're on the right path for once. Like.
And that's arguably the best team in Europe we played against, because they had Dupont and they had Entamac and they had Jaminet.
They were fully loaded.
Everyone, like, they were incredible. So, well done, Munster. I know you lost, but it's a good result away, and we're still qualified. We're going into the next round. I think we're travelling away to Sharks, which is a tough draw away to see a Khaleesi's team in Durban. So it's not easy, but look, if you're going to win the thing and do well, as I said they would, you have to beat people eventually. But poor old Leinster as well. Not poor old Leinster. Ulster have to go down and play Leinster in the Viva, which is going to be a tough one. And we're going to talk about that match next. Leinster won 36-10. They're just smashing it in Pool B. I think they're on top by 150 points difference, won all their games. So poor Ulster have to go down and play Leinster. And we'll talk about the game now. But first, we want to chat to Robbie Henshaw, our very own Pat. Spoke to him, and it was a really good chat. So listen to this.
Robbie, thanks for sitting down with us here. This swank little office that you have on the side where you kind of do all your thinking and plotting and planning. I was saying you're just, I suppose for the listeners and people who watch as well, they'd be kind of wondering when you are going to get back. You're hoping, you said, in the next kind of couple of weeks to maybe start getting out onto the pitch again and increasing your load and stuff like that, isn't that it?
Exactly, yeah. So, just getting back to kind of contact stuff. Things are progressing well. Out of the cast now and into just strapping it up and making sure I just get my range back well in the wrist, and then just get into full contact in 2 weeks time, I think. So looking forward to it. It's been good.
And when it first happened, and did you think, like, was the timelines that this is when you'd be back, or is it a little bit slower than you would have hoped? Or
it was kind of, they couldn't give a definitive time, unfortunately, after the procedure. So I said we just have to see how it is, and we just said we'd make sure it's perfect rather than cutting any corners or having it be an issue again down the line. So try and make it perfect, and then have it ready to go.
And in a World Cup year, like, it's like you can see where there might be somebody. Even I'd be a big fan of the NBA, and they manage the minutes and player minutes and all that type of stuff, but. I'm thinking of the likes of you and Andrew Conway, who kind of like are probably sitting there stewing, going like, I'm back, I'm ready, and somebody has to tell you, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Is it the same for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for every player, they'll always want to be back sooner than the time frame they're given. It's just probably our nature. But you just have to. I think it comes with experience as well, in terms of been down the road of injuries before. So you just have to trust the process and make sure you're making the right calls, as opposed to trying to come back sooner and then getting caught up in the end in terms of something else happening to you. So you have those discussions, and you just have to be patient. That's what I keep telling myself, just be patient. And there's a guy now, what is it, who a lot of people will be talking about this week, and a lot of people might have even thought there's going to be a development players brought in, maybe 4 or 5, but Andy's kind of just gone away from that, maybe because it's a World Cup year. But then Jamie getting a straight up call up, like what's for someone, like I've seen there was even a clip that's been shared about him in the last 24 hours of him making some big tackle in his first play, like, but what's he been like having it around the squad, and what's it been like watching his progress as a player as well? Yeah, he's been brilliant, and I suppose we've seen Jamie for a couple of years in training. What he brings to the game, and he's just an exciting young talent, a baby face when he came in the door. He's brilliant. He has a great skill set, great physicality, great passing, and he's a great left boot as well, which is valuable in your team today. I think we've seen from his performance last week that he's a top class player, and he's ready to jump into the Irish scene.
There's something that's like, I suppose it was more announced now these days, just say these are our development players, or even if you see the likes of, I know even like Ross Maloney would have kind of came in and trained with you guys last year if a body is needed, and sometimes the under-20s come in. Sometimes it wasn't as announced as in the past, like sometimes it's definitely down at Carton House, you'd maybe just get the younger lads in to train. Did you ever have that experience before a full call-up of going in to experience what that kind of senior setup was like?
Yeah, I did. I remember Declan Kilney called me in to a few camps just for like a few days training. It's always been done, to be fair. For the last 10, 12 years it's been done. There's been guys brought in to train. Probably kept quiet, but I think there's been a lot of guys who've been in and out and experienced like the intensity of camp and to find out what it's like to train on the pitch in the environment.
And what, like, if you're ever thinking back to that time when you were kind of young enough, you're probably around 19, 20, when you were called in. Do you remember like much about that, or if you can cast your mind back through the mists of time now to kind of when you would have been brought in, who would have looked after you, or did you find yourself daunted or anything like that by the whole process?
It's a long time ago now, showing my age. I remember going in, myself and Dave McSharry went in from Connacht. Two of us were joined at the hip for the whole camp because we're just quite new to the scene. I remember Keith Fox, another Athlone man, had been in there. He was a physio, and I'd say I spent majority of my time down talking to him because I was just kind of I was pretty just shy in terms of training with the lads that you watch, and you grew up watching. So I'm sure it's the same for every player that kind of goes in there. It's that little bit of nervous kind of excitement, which is great. And then once you get on the pitch or once you get training, that's all out the window, and you just get on with it then.
And there's one I remember, like there was, I think Gary Ringrose had been called in at one stage. I think Brian O'Driscoll talked him up after he came in as well. But do you ever remember anyone over the last 9 or 10 years where you were in there, like a young player that even caught your eye initially and you went, "Jesus, this guy's going to be all right. He's holding himself together okay"? I
remember Jordan Larmour's first training session. Everyone remembers that. I'd say he just came in just out of school as well, and everyone's like, "Whoa, like incredible!" Like his step and his energy and his work rate. He'd definitely be one that I remember just being like, he's going to be class. There's one actually, like even from over the years of following you and kind of even going with Connacht and then moving on to Leinster. How have you kind of found, even like, have you settled into kind of like who you are? It always takes you a few years when you're kind of doing it, but even doing this, like, do you feel a bit more comfortable doing this than you would have been maybe in your early 20s as well? Probably a little bit. You're never comfortable in front of a camera. I don't think. Listen, it's kind of, you get used to it as you go, as you get more experienced. But I've definitely settled where I am now in life, and it's been a great few years. The transition to Dublin has been brilliant. I've enjoyed it. Had some great memories playing in blue, and it's hopefully keep going now the next few years. But it's been very enjoyable.
And there's kind of, I wanted to kind of maybe even get to think about as well now of like, let's say even myself, I'll look back over time and I'll say like, oh God, when I was 25, I remember I did this, or, oh yeah, that was a great year. I was kind of wondering, if you were to look back and say, what was your favourite year? What was the year where you felt everything clicked? Now this could be rugby we're talking about, it could be personal life. Like, is there, even you look back on a year and kind of go, geez, that was a great year?
Funnily enough, probably COVID year I look back at, in terms of having to move back into my family home in Athlone with my other two sisters. And then training on my own, or training with one of my cousins, behind closed doors, doing those bleak enough runs that we had to do, and then coming back into playing, and probably looking back on that, just reflecting in terms of the work we put in when no one was watching, and then coming through and playing, and just like enjoying playing rugby, even though it was empty stadiums. It was still great to be doing it, even though like the world was shut down or whatever. Everyone was at home, so that kind of made me more grateful in terms of that experience. And I think that year probably stood to me in terms of all the work that went in.
Because I remember actually talking to Finian Wycherley, and he said something similar as well. Like, he went back home and And it's that thing of like, you feel, especially for someone like you who's been like very good and very talented from an early age, you're just on this, it's almost like you're on a conveyor belt and it's going, you can't even get off for moments. Even when you're injured, you're trying to get back as well. Like, so like to go back home and did you then set up like a home gym as well? Like, was it like?
Yeah, my school, Mick Loftus, one of my teachers, who runs the senior cup team, gave me access to bring in. We went in, myself and Dad went in with the Jeep and took out like weights to bring out to the shed from the school, and so I had a setup there that I could do all the weightlifting, and then we just had a bit of grass that I could run on and stuff, which was great.
Oh, good stuff, yeah. And then like, who did anyone in a surprise way when you all got back together in your pods or whatever? Did anyone come back extra jacked, or did anybody really surprise that it was really hitting the weights hard like at home?
I remember seeing a photo of, I think it was Johnny Sexton when he came back. We were back to training gym, and he was like, there's a picture of him like in the gym, and I was like, geez, he's been lifting weights. He's doing. Yeah, I remember that picture. But yeah, I think Andrew Porter. He's always, to be fair to him, he's always he's always a beast. But he came back as well in serious shape.
I suppose like for you, like it's sometimes like I think even you might even say it yourself, you love when you get a run of games together. You feel like you're in your best form as well. Like, but did you kind of feel? I was kind of thinking of that Lions year as well. That like that 2021. Maybe you had a thing like you had toured in 2017, but you wanted to be more involved. Did you feel so satisfied with that year, or was that a year where you kind of felt, geez, I was at my best there? Like, you know, what are your kind of memories of that year, I suppose?
The 2017.
No, even 2021.
2021. Probably just having the run of games. Just having a clean run at it. And now I had a few little niggles throughout that year. I remember I missed the England game away in the Autumn Nations. Missed the Georgia game at home, so there was a couple of little niggles, but generally speaking, it was probably a good year for me in terms of the minutes I played, and my contributions probably in the game were positive enough. So and then that fed through to the Lions, and again, wasn't perfect. I had a small hamstring issue when we landed in South Africa, but generally speaking, it was probably from a fitness point of view, it was probably my best year, I'd say.
Yeah. And then like for yourself, like even there, like I remember talking to Peter O'Mahony recently, and I was asking him like, for when you play, what do you feel are the 2 or 3 things you need to have done in a game for you to walk off and feel kind of confident? Would you have something similar as well, where you feel you need to hit certain markers or have a certain amount of like, you know, targets to aim for in a game?
I think definitely when you're carrying your involvement in your phase play, involvement in your strike plays, set piece plays. So you always have little markers about how you run a line, or if you had a positive involvement in defence, if you assist a turnover, or if you could affect slow the ball down with your tackle or something. You'd always have a look at little things that you could mark yourself on.
And do you like let's say I'm trying to even put myself on your level, which is nowhere near your level. I'm thinking about when I play Astro and I score an early goal, I'll be like, all right, here we go. Like I've settled in. Do you need something like that to feel like you even talk about like in football or goalkeepers seem to have a touch of the ball early? Do you feel you need to do something like that to get yourself into a game as well? In
the early part of my career, definitely. I used to call them get a settler, get an early settler. So whether it be a high ball catch or a tackle, something just to set the tone. Always, I think that just comes normal now. You just have to find your way to get your first positive involvement, and then the rest goes hopefully goes well then. And
do you are you a guy then for talking to yourself out there on the pitch? Like, do you have your own little internal dialogue when you're playing games? Like,
no, I'd probably just stick on. We kind of, a lot of the guys harp on about is just staying in the moment. Just always kind of remember, just don't try and not drift. It's it's human that you will drift at some stage. Your mind will go elsewhere, but just always trying to bring yourself back to the moment you're in. And making sure you're always ready for the next play, or staying in the play and then next play. There's a couple of things I wanted to ask just about Ireland. Was like, I remember again, that was that kind of COVID year. It was a bit kind of mixed up. It was a tough start for like Andy, whereas like he couldn't get the whole squad together. There's just so many disruptions that year as well. Like, but I remember he was always talking at the start saying he thought something was building,
And I say maybe sometimes even in the media, even we couldn't see what he might have been seeing or you guys would have been seeing. But even during those tough first few months, did you guys notice something that maybe the results might not be going your way, but did you feel that there was something positive building?
Yeah, I think so. I think from when this journey started, there was a clear vision in terms of what we're aiming towards, and everyone just bought into it. Obviously, results wise and things, there was a bit. That was that. But I think from internally, what we were producing within the squad and the connections, the relationships, it was a really good environment, and I think everyone, there was really kind of happiness and enjoyment factor of being in camp, which was brilliant.
Yeah. There's one actually, we watched it recently, it went down well with a lot of people as well, it was the Tackling the All Blacks documentary that came out over Christmas as well, about going down to New Zealand and beating New Zealand as well there. But would you have watched something like that? Like, do you sit back and watch something like that, or is that something you're going to go back and watch at the end of your career?
I haven't watched it yet, no. I've just been I've seen little snippets of it. But yeah, it'll be definitely something I'll go back and watch. Don't know when, maybe before I come back playing. Maybe that's what my mum suggests me. She goes, sit down and watch it before you get back playing. Might give you a bit of a spring, even though there is a spring to get back. But I think always looking back on those, you'll watch with a smile on your face, whether it be now or in 20 years' time. I'd been on that tour in 2012 when they should have won in Christchurch really, and then kind of the 60-0 that followed it as well. And it was touched upon a little bit in that documentary. But what was it like to have the senior lads like Johnny and Pete O'Mahony and even Keith who'd been on that tour? Were they trying to drive it home to everybody this is just how serious this gets down in a country like this as well? Yeah, I think so. Well, it was mentioned our first meeting from our coaches and from the leaders in terms of who'd been there and done it before and experienced the kind of the storm we were facing. And then we spoke about after the first game in terms of what we faced was what we'll face, and to expect it again for the next 2 weeks. But within that first game, I think we realised that there was serious moments for us there that could have been a different game if we'd taken them. So that really gave us that kind of positive belief going into the next two games. But yeah, definitely to get back to your question, the lads who'd been down there and experienced it before definitely shared it with the group in terms of what we were going to face.
There's talk now, let's say the squad is out at the moment and you have the familiar faces back in again, like Keith and Connor and Pete and stuff like that as well. Like some people are kind of going like just because maybe the lads aren't playing for Munster, or like some lads like even Bundy, let's say for example, isn't playing every week. But like from your experience, like from being in a squad with them, what do they kind of bring to you guys? Like, and even the fact that the lads have kind of even sometimes acting as finishers now in games, like what do these guys bring to the squad as a whole, I suppose?
Yeah, I think they've been around so long in terms of experience. You can't buy experience in terms of playing international football. It's a different game, and I think to have the lads in there it's key to have that mix of experience with youth and guys who need to be brought on and shown the way as well. So I think it's good. I think what the lads bring off the pitch as well is huge. They're great characters within the group that bring great energy to train and great energy to the team room.
I'll ask you just a couple of quick ones and then we'll finish on the AS supplements as well that we're kind of here for today. But I suppose, is there much of a buzz, or has there been much talk or slagging amongst everybody else with this new Netflix documentary that's going to be taking place as well? I was saying, have you guys been talking about that already, and has there been slagging about who's going to be the star of the show as well?
Well, no, we only got told last in November that it was happening, but we haven't really. I'd say there'll be another meeting about it in camp in terms of what to expect or if filming is starting and what's going to happen. But we haven't heard. I'm sure there's some lads who know what's going on, but personally I haven't heard who the main characters are. It'd be intriguing to see who'll be up there. But it's definitely. I think it's great for the sport. Personally, I think seeing what it did for F1, seeing what it did for even those the all or nothing kind of series about Tottenham and about Man City. I think it shows a different side to the sport, and fingers crossed it'll grow the sport, further afield across the globe.
And I was saying, if there's one person if you think they should from the Irish squad follow, who do you think it should be?
I know they'll want to follow Tadhg Furlong.
Yeah.
100%. I'm just going to say Bundy because I'm good mates with him.
And it's
He's an exciting character as well. He's got energy, so I think they'd get good content from him.
And is there somebody they should avoid then as well?
Probably Bundy. No, I think everyone in there is. It's a great camp, great environment. So whoever they film, they'll have good footage, I'd say.
To finish up, you're here with AS Supplements. Is this been going on long, or is
no,
it like you just
just recent. They're an Irish company. Delighted to be in partnership with them. They give us multivitamins, and it's kind of key part of our diet is to have multivitamins and stay fit and healthy to be able to train. So thankfully I didn't get that, and I'm probably jinxed it. I didn't get that nasty cold / flu that was going around. So maybe I think they're working.
Is it? It's kind of like a peace of mind as well. If you're taking this every day and doing everything else right, you're on a level footing then for the whole day. Like
I think so. Yeah, it's especially throughout the cold months when there's things going around like that. It's key to have just to stay healthy.
Yeah. And then just the last one I was going to ask. I said we were even just talking there before we started recording. It's about how the Irish collective of World Cup, and how do you guys get away from us wrecking your heads about that all year, I suppose?
I suppose all we can do is look at kind of use the Six Nations as a springboard. Do as well as we can. I know we had the Triple Crown last year, but go one better, obviously. And then then it gets into, there's so much ahead of us, but in terms of finishing off then the playoff games with your club, and then you turn the page and it's proper serious focus for France. So I think we're in a good place, and there's chat, we're number one in the world, and it's a good pressure to have on us, especially with the what's upcoming. It's exciting, and we'll have to walk into the storm.
Perfect. Okay, listen, it's lovely talking to you today, Robbie, and good luck now when you get back playing as well.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
Yeah, so it was great to talk to Robbie Henshaw there last week, and you'll just see that I have sat in Greg's seat, and just basically
You're not Greg? What? Not Greg.
Listen, we have an upgrade here. Better looking host now. So sorry, Greg.
Different, like whenever I looked over.
It is. I do have a flash new jumper now. Like, it's a shame that people who are listening to the podcast can't see it, but I feel more confident in it. Like,
you look great.
After Katrina brought me shopping at the weekend. Robbie was chatting to us there. Myself and Jason were saying that he was doing it for AS Supplements. So I kind of met him. Myself and Killian, who's the cameraman, met him in the Dillon Hotel, and he was great lad to chat to. And it was I even said to him beforehand, like, do you want to talk about injury stuff too much? Like, and if he was out for a while, he probably would have steered clear, but he was happy enough to talk. So I think he said he'll be back in training maybe the week of the France game. So I'd say you'll see him for rounds 3 and 4 now. Like, he'll probably play against Italy if all goes well for him. So
good stuff.
So that's good. So, but there's one bit now before we moved on to the Leinster Racing game. We were kind of asked him that, and Alex Roberts now from JOE.ie is over at the Six Nations launch today, and he was talking to the guys about this new Netflix documentary that's coming up as well. So I was asking Robbie about that, and I was saying what characters should be, should they talk to, and what should they avoid? And he said 100%. He said he thinks they're going to talk to Tadhg Furlong. Like that's, he said that's nailed on. They're going to talk to him. And then he said he'd like them to talk to Bundy because he thinks he's a great character. He said, but he also thinks they should do well to avoid him as well. So I was just kind of wondering, like, for you guys as well, like, Lindsay, what character do you think, like, from any of the Six Nations, do you think they should follow during the Six Nations for this Netflix documentary?
I'd like Dupont actually, just to see, like, get really into his psyche. Is there a bit of crack about him, or is he just that typically French arrogant man that he just like?
Le General.
Yeah, when he walks into a room, everyone pauses and slowly turns to just like, look at him and all. But definitely him, and I'm trying to think. Ellis Genge actually, I'd like to see him from England. I feel he's like he's nothing compared to our Tyg Furlong, but I feel on some level he's like the English version of the Tyg Furlong, maybe a bit of a messer, and he seems very popular among the lads. Even as Bristol Bears gone back, he does the dancing and the singing.
Yeah. What about you, Jason?
I think I'm going to look at two Irish guys. I think, well, they're actually not Irish guys, Irish players, an Australian and a New Zealander, James Lowe and Mac Hansen. I think Mac Hansen, as we know, we've had Mac in here before. Mac's good crack, and James Lowe, I've chatted him before, and he's always good crack, and he just seems like a bit of a messer as well. And even at the matches, you see him after him, and he kind of like, I'd say this guy now in the dressing rooms and any of the clips we've seen from any of the documentaries, he seems to be the number one character. But we haven't seen an awful lot of Mac. But we've spotted him, we see what kind of character he is. So I'd like to see them follow him around from an Irish perspective. Yeah,
James Lowe's funny because like you would talk to him, I suppose like it's almost like he's normal in New Zealand, but then you drop him in Ireland, and so he doesn't find what the big fuss is about. But but he'll just sit there, and you talk about people being media trained. He'll just be like, "Oh, having a really shit day today," and then I went and got a breakfast roll earlier, and then I went out and scored it, and like everyone's like, "Yeah, what a legend!" Like, but he's just kind of being himself, like, you know. So, and it's great to see that he hasn't been trained out of that too much as well, like, and that it's good that like Leinster and Ireland have tried to keep him, like they haven't said to him.
I'd say they've tried to. I'd say he's got in trouble a few times because, no offense to the rest of the players, like they're so bloody media trained over here that look, and because they have to. Well, they have to, and I did. It's a topic for another day. I think it's probably sometimes they're too media trained, but you can understand where they're coming from. But you see, if you trust the player, I mean, James Lowe, he comes out, sometimes he curses. When we saw the Paddy Paddison thing, like let them be themselves to a certain extent. Like, you know, they're not bloody politicians at the end of the day. So I think maybe that Netflix thing will let us get to see, because that's what grows the game. That's what we need to see. You have to be able to not just interact. You have to be able to kind of understand the personality of the player, be able to relate to them. Yeah. And if you can't relate to them, that's why it's been so successful with the F1. We need to be able to relate to these players.
Yeah, you have to invest in their personality. Don't we? Kind of invest in people that we kind of connect with. And actually, James Lowe, I met him at the Autumn Internationals. He was injured. He's a big, huge man. And B, I would have rather meet him like over a drink first, you know that way? Because I felt like it was kind of really awkward and formal. Yeah. And Christina Mahon, who was interviewing she sent me up and she's like, give James a hug. So I did, but I think he thought I was coming on to him. So I was like, genuinely, this did happen. Yeah, so I'd love to actually they're two guys I'd love to go for beers with. Do you know that? Because I think we'd have beers and a barbecue. I think they'd be life and soul of the party.
We did something in the, I remember it was in the Guinness Storehouse a couple of seasons ago when James he maybe only over, like he wasn't Irish qualified yet, but he was kind of had the flag planted that he was going to if he could. But his mum and dad were over at the time, and it was brilliant, like to kind of like see that kind of characters and interacting with them and stuff like that. Because he said like and they wouldn't get over that much, you know, like so it was great to kind of meet them, and you get a sense of what he's like as well when you kind of meet them as well. But real good character, like, so hopefully now, like he's in that Six Nations squad, like, so you know, hopefully he gets back in time, like that's why I was actually do think though, like, God, I'm actually veering way off the point here. Greg has a tougher job than I think. I'm veering way off the point. But I was just thinking that's why maybe in a way Jacob Stockdale's in that squad, because if James Lowe isn't back for the opener, Stockdale might start in the left wing or something, because he's got that big boot as well, like, so.
Point,
He's still not Moultron though. Jacob Stockdale.
I think he wants to give him a chance. Someone's asking me, they were kind of confused why is Stockdale in there, because he isn't playing well, as you said. Yeah. But I think this could be his last hurrah, like, kind of like, this is your last chance.
I was thinking the same. So he had to be in the Six Nations to kind of really kind of see where he's at. But like when Nathan Doak went off, they were kind of a bit exposed. And again, he got caught in that channel on a line out, and it was a poor try to give away. So like one thing that James Lowe improved on, obviously when he started, his position on the wing and his tackling was questionable. He's really just, as the professional he is, we're kind of saying like he's laughing, he's joking, good personality, but boy did he put the head down and worked on everything that kind of came out negatively from that first outing in the Six Nations. So look, I wish Jacob Stockdale well, but I'm not too confident, to be honest.
Even when he was in form and he was like that class season, there was always question marks over his defence.
Oh, hugely.
And like he was saying with Lowe, but I remember Lowe after the All Blacks game was like, you guys slagging my D. He was like, but he went away and he worked on it. Yeah. And you could see he worked on it. Blatantly worked on it, because it's much better improved defence, as you said. So it's a question mark, because you can't get caught out in that back three come the top level. Like you might get away with it in a URC game, no offence there, but you're playing the big boys in the World Cup of the Six Nations. You get caught out in that back three, good luck to you.
Big time, because Shane Daly, I thought, could have done better for one of the Toulouse tries. Like he had time, and he kind of just fell off the tackle. And I think, we talk about wingers not being in a game and you're cold, but when the time comes, which unfortunately the pressure is on to either like make your tackles or take your tries, you know.
I suppose before we kind of even move on to that Leinster game as well, just that you guys covered a lot of the Munster stuff, but just how good was that try that they got from Tyg Byrne as well? Like, I think it was 3 offloads and like, it was
we haven't seen Munster play that in a very long time, so it's exciting because they still have that brute force and that strong platform up front, which like, no matter what you do, like, you have to build a Munster team on that because it's what we're renowned for, and we've always had good strong forwards. I know we're kind of missing a little bit lacklustre at the moment in terms of hooker and tight head, especially with John off to New Zealand, which I still don't understand, but that's another topic. But no, as I said, like, it's something that we've been clamouring for. Because we're watching as we move on to now, our pretty boys in Leinster playing beautiful rugby for long enough. So once now there's 2 on 1. It's normally the other way around. It's normally 2 Munster and Leinster. I've got so now I know what it feels like when we're talking about Leinster. We're like,
I have a fire extinguisher here just in case we get too bad.
Well, of all the tries to kind of start off with, talking about great tries, that Leinster try for Jimmy O'Brien's first, like, and that's like a perfectly like a Swiss watch. Everybody had a role. Everybody did something.
Can I just point out, sorry, in that try before I say anything, that pass to Ringrose was forward. Okay, so I just have to point that out. I don't want to ruin it, Sherlock, but if you watch it again, that pass to Ringrose was forward.
Thanks very much for tuning in.
I have to get it in there. Like,
Joe, what? You're a bitter bitch. You're a bitter bitch, right? You couldn't even just look.
I just want to get my facts on the table.
That's like saying.
Anyway, back onto your beautiful try.
Well,
do you know what? Actually, just remove yourself. Yes, Pat, we'll have this conversation.
But yeah, like, just so you could even see there from the lineup, even seeing Josh going to make set up like it was going to be like a maul as well. Like, so then the forwards get sucked in, and then everybody just did everything so well. I think even they said, like, you saw Larimer came in to be one of the first receivers, and that spreads everybody even wider then again. So it was just so well worked. Like, for a team like that to score an early try, they must just be buzzing them for the rest of the game after something like that.
And you know what? It's hard actually because on the line out, when you want, like, for a play like that off the top, you want to go to the middle or to the back. Because obviously, like you said, you're eliminating now like 8 defenders, 7-8 defenders. But they had to go to the front because they were obviously struggling. But so it was a down and pop now. So it was well worked. And they obviously had identified that Racing were going to actually hunt high for the secondary line of attack. Because it wasn't the first time now they hit that front door kind of line, one running hard short and one out the back. And again, when you've running lines that the timing is one's coming here and there and you're defending, you just don't know where, you're just bamboozled. So I just think, yes, it works, but I think they always have 2 options. Yes. So they read the game very well. Like, what you don't want is teams running this, like, no more than basketball, you're running a play, but you're not actually using your highly intelligent brain to make a read. I will agree with you, it might have been forward, but listen, it's not our fault. It's not our job. It's a bit like the referee. It's not our job.
Like, I mean, look, I think the interesting thing about that game is the fact that it's the first time we've seen that maybe Leinster are a bit human. It's the first 60 minutes, like, just like, this can't go either way. But then the funny part is the last 20 minutes, they released their superhumans, and you had Gary Ringrose. I mean, that kick, I suppose the awareness to put the kick in, and then the little flick back up. I mean, I don't work, probably sick and tired about talking about how good Gary Ringrose is at the moment. Yeah. He has been phenomenal, but that was, it kind of reminded me of the All Blacks from a few years back during, like, the real super year with Carter and McCaw, where the All Blacks in 20 minutes can just go, and that's what they did, and they just pulled away. And, like, the end of the game, I remember watching it like around 60 something minutes, like, just, man, Leinster could lose this, and then all of a sudden you blink your eyes, Leinster have a bonus point. Yeah. It's phenomenal. It really is. Like, it's just phenomenal that they can do that. Like, and literally switch on in a 15-20 minute period and just go, oh, we're not doing too good here. That's fine. Release the superhumans.
There was one actually. It was even like when you watch the replays of that one, like who was did he assist? That was Jimmy O'Brien again, wasn't it? But it was, you actually saw, like, Ringrose, the fact that he can think about these things, where he chased that kick down as well. But then he saw that there was a covering defender came over. Yeah. So as he went to lift it, then he just dived into him as he was offloading it. So he took him out as he was offloading it as well and got in his way. Like, there was just, it's like, my brain just wouldn't even think on that level. Just sometimes they say we only use, like, 10% of our brain. Like, Ringrose is just on another level that you can slow it down that much. Like,
what's going through his head? Like, all right, I have to gather the ball. I have to just even retain possession, let alone, like, offload it to someone who's we're gonna like provide an assist for. Like, and it is superhuman to think of that, because you're kind of only thinking of this one moment in time. What's my next job? But he had like about 3 or 4 there. He's there kind of just profiling and ordering as he's like just going for the ball.
I don't know what he's been doing, lads, because he's always been a good player, but everything just seems to be clicking from this year, and he just kind of seems to be. It's not just his athleticism; it's his brain that is just working. Everything's just firing on all cylinders for him. But I think it's going to be interesting. Like, so what we were saying, that so the last 16. So if they have Ulster, right, which is in the Aviva, as we know. But if they get through, they have a quarter-final, semi-final and final in Dublin.
Yeah.
Right now, but not getting ahead of ourselves, right? So this is a bit of a hot take. I think Ulster are probably one of the worst teams for them to have drawn.
Yeah.
Because they finished first. I know Ulster struggled and just got through. But you never know what's going to happen when it's an Interpro. If there's a team, like I think if it was Munster versus Toulouse, for example, in the Aviva, they'd have an easier job of beating Toulouse.
Yeah.
But like when you just got Ulster coming down the road, who know the Aviva, who know the boys, and they've beaten them there before, like it's a feisty Interpro. Anyone come in an Interpro.
Well, my father this morning, over coffee, he's there shouting into me, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh yeah, it's good draw, isn't it, the Ulster? And I was like, no, Dad, it's actually not.
Yeah.
It's like a woman scorned. They'll come back down to the Aviva.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they just need one performance. And I'm actually kind of like, no, this is actually the worst draw we could have got. Because everyone is talking about Ulster's season turned upside down when they came out to the RDS and they lost. And I'd say that's in the back of their head, and they're kind of rubbing their hands saying, right, now it's the time for us to pull the rug under Leinster.
100%.
So I don't think it's going to be easy. I'm hoping they're getting over the line, because, listen, we're talking about the first 50 minutes, but I think finally we can see glimpses of them being tested, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're kind of answering, and they just have such an array of talent that they can kind of come in and do their job. But I do agree, if anyone's going to beat us this season, I think it could be Ulster.
I still think Leinster will probably win it, but I think if you look at any of the other kind of teams they could have drawn, I would say like Ulster would be the one I wouldn't want to avoid, just because same if they ended up playing, there was at one stage it would have worked out, they could have played Munster there. And like you just, even though I think Leinster are far superior to Munster at the moment, it's just when you get into a big last 16 European game and it's an Interpro, and you're like, you can go either way. Like.
Yeah, it's mad even just to kind of think about it there, like, just the fact that Ulster, like, were like almost like dead and buried, like, you know, like, and but then the whole thing was like Claremont's kind of imploding. Jared Payne's kind of in there as interim coach now as well, and then they're set up for it. I think the way it worked out, they almost knew at the end of that game that they knew it was going to be a shootout against Sale. They went and beat them, and then but maybe they found, you know, sometimes halfway through a season a team finds something, but it was very interesting to see them stacking their bench, wasn't it?
You know, like bringing the lads on, and you know what was. I found in their performance actually, so when they went to Sale, they got, now listen, we can say whatever about the travel.
Yeah.
But they absolutely got bullied. But what was spanked. But what really impressed me was their speed of ball. They really looked after their breakdown. They didn't let Sale set to actually absolutely leather them.
Yeah.
Now, I thought it was going to be a rough day when Rob Little got absolutely, he got a high ball and he got tackled, and I was like, ooh. But yeah, then you've like John Cooney coming on, Jordy Murphy coming on, Kieran Treadwell, Rob Herring, and it kind of just finished the job, didn't it? So look, they have an unbelievable squad.
Yeah.
And if Dan McFarlane can get them all firing just for one game, I'm hoping it's not the headline of that weekend.
One thing I will say, and excuse me for cursing, but I think it's bollocks that
they win one.
That they win one game and now they're in the last 16. That's why I'm like, okay, my Irish hat on, I'm delighted. Another Irish team is in the last 16 now. I know one of them are going to have to eliminate each other. And I'm delighted also got through. But I just still think, and we've said that multiple times in the pod, I hope, they said they're looking at it. You said you spoke to them. They said they're looking at it. I hope it changes, because to win one game and get through to the last 16 is absolute rubbish.
Yeah, because they don't deserve it. Like if they do go and beat Leinster, right, if it's the upset of the tournament, you're kind of like, right, you got to stab at it when you didn't really deserve it. You won one game, you had one performance where you kind of showed up and you weren't even firing at full, you know, on all cylinders. But yeah, I agree with you. I think it's farcical now at this stage.
Yeah, we were chatting the other day, like when you had your the old thing. So what was it? It was four groups of five, wasn't it?
Was it 6 groups of 4? Was it?
So, whatever it was. Like I remember, like every year you had to get bonus points in your 2 home games, and generally more often than not you had to win 1 away game. So you could afford to lose 1 game, and they say you could get through on 2. But you were never going to get a home, let's say, quarter final, because there was no last 16 then. And like the amount of games that we had, we touched on it last week, but the Miracle Gloucester match and the Leinster had a few games and so does, where you get through and it just takes it out of it. Like to win 1 game and to, Ulster got battered in the first. I know, sorry, they they didn't get battered by Rochelle. It was a last minute try, but they got battered against Boise. They got lost twice at La Rochelle, and now they're still in the competition.
Yeah,
it's not right. Like,
No, it's not.
No.
I saw another one, because like Gloucester as well, like they're like minus 78 points, 1-2 at least, but lost 2. But yeah, it's like it's the way they were celebrating the qualification, but they'd lost over in Bordeaux and then been well beaten as well. But it was like great achievement by the lads, and then I saw even the way the Ulster thing was like, it was a famous Ulster win, and you're just like, it's not Ulster's fault. They'll take it, of course, at that.
Of course, yeah.
But they need to change that from next season onwards. Like they can't mess around with that anymore. Like, but yeah, like from the game, like even just I suppose like it was just they stayed in it. Like the lads kind of. It was just well thought out, I thought, by McFarlane. Big risk, I suppose, and their own fans must have started worrying when they were kind of losing like 11-8. I think Doak was in the sin bin as well. And they must have been like, what are we going to do? But then from the 50th minute onwards, it was like brought on the finishers almost. Yeah. And John Cooney got a lot of praise for kind of how he handled things when he came on as well. So, and Rob Little, again, like for a guy taking an absolute battering a couple of times, he got a nice try as well and came back at it well. But yeah, they kind of, they'll fancy it now, I suppose. And it's like, it's great to see, because they had a couple of close ones that they lost as well. So it's good to see that their season isn't over there, because they're still, like, at the end of all that, like, you'd be ringing the alarm bells a couple of weeks ago, like, and they're still in the top 4 of the URC, and now they're into the last 16. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I suppose other bits from the Champions Cup then as well at the weekend. You spotted one of Christian Wade getting sparked out there trying to stop Gary Ringrose.
You see it in the replay, like you see the first angle he comes in off the hip, and you see it from the opposite angle, and like he's kind of he's out cold like straight away, and he slides along the ground like. I mean, over in France, do you think he'd be stood down in France? No, I don't think so.
There was I think there was people complaining as well yesterday with Saracens missing a Jamie George one where he went to tackle, just got bounced backwards, and you could just see him kind of almost turtle up on the ground, like he
got winded. Was that?
Yeah, and they said he was winded then as well, like so he wasn't concussed, he was winded, like so it's that kind of stuff is still going on, and I suppose then we even have the thing of. Well, sure, we've seen the thing we talked about earlier on when Greg was here with the Carbery one, Ben Healy getting himself kind of yellow carded as well. We have Jamie George as well. And then we have all the talk over in England now about the lowering the tackle height then as well. And like I suppose, Jason, you're kind of manning Rugby Joe an awful lot on Instagram, and you're seeing all the comments coming back. What's it been like now ever since that was announced?
It's absolutely slated. So like, I mean, I was chatting to Anthony Watson. We'll have a clip of that on the show next week. And there's some stuff up in Rugby Joe as well. And we had like the likes of, we'll say like Joe Marler coming out like and giving out about it. We had guys like Louis Ludlow coming out giving out about it. We had like Sonny Bill Williams taking the piss out of it, going, does anyone want to hire a recently retired offloader to come play a bit of club rugby? But I mean, Anthony was saying like he doesn't see it come into fruition. This wasn't discussed with the players. There was no input from the players whatsoever. I mean, look, lads, it's farcical. It's I could understand it to a certain extent if you were looking at bringing it in for kids. But we're talking about fully grown men and women. They're going to have to do this, right? Because it's the whole way up. Like it's just underneath the professional game. So this is fully grown men and women have to tackle it the way. I don't think you understand. It doesn't work. Like I mean, you're just as susceptible, especially if you have to lower your tackle at the last second. You're just susceptible to get a bang into the knee and a bang into the hip. And even Anthony Watson said it. Like he said, a lot of the concussions I got like were from lower tackles.
Yeah.
So
hips, knees, knocking you out in the back.
Yeah. It's crazy, isn't it?
It is, and the big thing is the player input. Like, and we you know this well. It happens across the board. Like there's committees and people who want to input in the game, but they have no experience in the game. And if you don't bring in the actual, the people who are part and parcel with the players, and they don't get the input, then you're not really making the right decisions. No. And like again, we'd be back to the drawing board with something different. They'd change it. Like, bring the players involved. They are the stakeholders of the game, no more than like I've been on that side, you've been on that side. The input is important, even from an outside as the game evolves. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Because people who don't have experience, unfortunately, are making decisions they mightn't. If they, not saying they don't, but you have to get all your information, all your stakeholders, all involved, and then kind of make a vote and see, is this the best decision for the game of rugby and the evolution of it?
I just found that very strange, and was even talking to Anthony, kind of like, this is the RPA they have over there, like, and there's been a lot of like law changes and rules and this and that been brought in, like particularly in the last couple of years. And it's crazy to think that the players are not involved in these discussions. Yeah. You just have guys in suits sitting down who, some of them haven't even played rugby, and they're making these huge decisions. Yeah. You're like, I mean, like, why aren't these guys at the table?
Yeah.
Why aren't these? It's just like, as you said, these are the key stakeholders. These are the players. These are the people that are going to tell you exactly, okay, this ain't going to work, or this could work, or let's look at this. It's like, no, some guy in his computer is looking, going, actually, do you know what we'll do now? Waste tackling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I think that's a lot of people are saying, yeah, it's like, just look at let's give us the data. Like, what are you basing your decision off? Like, 'cause if everything's out, it might make it a little bit more understandable. But just speaking of the kind of the laws of the game and what's going on, I love to see the Ebenezer try you got at the weekend.
Yeah.
Wasn't that great? And
Yeah.
how almost like in a weird way, like that just wasn't, he was smart enough to do it, but that's just probably Sharks had that in their mind for a while of like, we're going to do this. Like, but yeah, it was like Joe Marler was like, bounds to the, in the back,
Doing the
snake
caterpillar
rook,
thing,
the caterpillar
he wasn't
rooks,
shoulder bound, is what the referee did, and he came in from an onside position. And what did you see? Like, if you do watch much of the English Premiership, like it's a lot more prevalent in the English Premiership than it is anywhere else. And you see, if you just Google caterpillar rook, the first thing you'll see is an image of Exeter Chiefs, and I think, is it 5 men back the whole way? Right?
Yeah, they're like a bear crawl, but their belly's nearly on the ground. They're like, what are you doing?
So but it's not as penalised as much over there to kind of let him away with it. I think that's what happened with Marler, because if you look at the thing, if you watch it slowly, so I can't remember who the Sharks guy is. The Sharks guy comes in and just quick counter up, just a little bounce, but the bounce is enough for Marler's shoulder to not be there, and he's just at the arm. And he's kind of like, oh, sure, I'm still bound, I'm still holding on, and it was pre-planned.
Yeah.
They knew what they were at, and
Yeah.
then he just comes along and goes, SBS scores the try. But it's good to see that it is being penalised, because everybody, I think, well, there's something, if you spoke to the players, I guarantee you, there's something that caterpillar rook should be banned.
Yeah.
It's horrible for the game. It's stupid. It's destroying the game. No one wants to see shit like that.
No. To buy the 9 a bit of time for a box kick.
I suppose just even then from the last 16 draw, then like I suppose I'll just read it out for everybody. We might not have seen it. It's like you have Leinster against Ulster at home, the Aviva. La Rochelle host Gloucester. Exeter hosting Montpellier. Toulouse and Bulls should be a great one now. Then we have Saracens at home to Ospreys. And Saracens, again, got that kind of home draw because they got a late try against Edinburgh now as well. And that cost Edinburgh too. So Sharks and Munster. And then I think if Munster win that, they'll probably either play Toulouse or Bulls, so it's going to be a tough route for Munster. Greg's Champions Cup or Hiding Cup prediction at the start of the season is going to be a tough one to come through.
It's going to be tested.
Stormers are home. Now, they did really well in the group stages now, or the pool stages. They're at home to Harlequins. And then we have Leicester hosting Edinburgh. I think the winners of that play the Leinster Ulster game. And then the other one is just Freddie Burns getting announced that he's off then at the end of the season to go play. Or is it even now? He's off to play Super Rugby.
They're bringing him over for the start of the season in February. So yeah, he's going over in a few weeks' time. Basically.
Yeah, mad one, but a good one for him anyway. Like, yeah,
strange. They must be stuck for a half because it's New Zealand. Like, surely you've got someone there to bring an old veteran over to New Zealand. But they must want the experience. Look, Freddie Burns, we saw his that clutch kick, the drop goal in the final last year. He was forced on after, it was like 10 minutes. When Watson went off.
I
mean,
Freddie
Freddie Burns.
Player of the match that day, did he?
I think he did. Yeah, he's still a fantastic player. Like, he'd add to any squad. He really would.
Absolutely.
Jason, do you want to take us off then with the Challenge Cup? Then we just had Connacht. I suppose the interesting one from that one, I suppose, would be just Bundy not featuring again, and he wasn't in the 23 at all.
There's an interesting one on that now. I don't know, is there much in it, but there's apparently something is going on now. Look, come here, I'm only speculating because it's rumours in the bushes or whatever, that there is a bit of a falling out there with Bundy, and I don't know if it's Andy Friend or someone else.
Or Wilkins maybe.
Wilkins, but he's been left out of a few squads, and there's actually been talks that Munster have been keeping a close eye on the situation to see if they could actually bring him down.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what's going on there. Now, that could just be
him and Fekitoa there in the centre.
Do you know what I mean? I think Fekitoa will be gone now, and Bundy's wages will be used to pay for Bundy. But
a swap deal.
I don't know. I know when he first came to Connacht, Leinster, Munster, both wanted to sign him, and he chose Connacht, and he's literally a god in Connacht, literally. But if there's a falling out there, maybe he does. Is he, no offence, does he want to move to a club where he's more of a chance of winning something or something maybe? Not that it's going to happen with Munster, but he's kind of maybe guaranteed regular Champions Cup. I don't know, no offence to Connacht or anything like that, but it's an interesting one. If he does leave, he's contracted on an RFU contract until 2024, I believe. Yeah. So I don't know, because he's in an IRFU contract, it would be a lot easier than him moving to France or something like that, which is not going to happen because he's a key international. But getting him down to Munster, I'm sure they can
Well, if the RFU
figure
want to
that
make
out,
it happen and he needs game time and there's something there, like he would just be moved.
It's interesting because he's just been kind of left out.
Yeah, it's a bit strange now.
There's definitely something going on there.
Yeah,
because he's
definitely.
in the Irish squad. He's fit. We know he's fit.
Yeah. So and that's and like it's such an interesting one, especially with Robbie Henshaw being out for the first couple of rounds. You would have assumed it's going to be Bundy and Gary Ringrose again. But then you have like, I don't know, is it a certain now that he's not playing? Like Andy will have his own kind of set plans and like maybe he's happy out that Bundy's getting rested and is ready to go. But
we never pointed out actually, but Lindsay called it last week with all Jamie Osborne getting in. So
yeah.
that was a good call out of you, as usual.
listen.
Always right. You know
No,
what I mean?
not at all. Never. I was just delighted for once I was right.
Yeah.
No,
So
it's nice
see
to
him
see
in there
him
now. We
in.
could look.
Well, yeah, and you know what? It's nice to see him in because obviously he'll have Leinster teammates there. He's a good cohort. I think there's 20 Leinster players in that squad. But not only that, it's pivotal that he's the likes of Gary Ringrose, who, you know, we're saying like he was good, but his rugby brain. He's kind of like that centre half who matures as they go. Like he's probably coming into the best part of his career now.
Yeah.
In that centre position, like because he can bring in like his assists, his direct running, his try scoring, like so he has it all really. But I think Jamie Osborne hopefully is someone I would like to see him feature.
Yeah.
Because I think a bit like Stockdale, we need to blood him now to see what he's going to offer.
He's only 21. Like I mean,
Yeah.
Like he's played in like 2 big Heineken Cup games. He was probably not as good as he might have liked against Racing compared to what he was like against Gloucester. He was phenomenal against Gloucester, but this guy can play 10 as well, can't he? He can play 12, play 13.
Yeah.
Probably stick him on the wing and full back. So another guy again, like where he just has all the tools, and like he's nearly 6'4", like, and he's a big lad, but he's only 21, so he's going to fill out even more.
So, you see, actually, a part, I think it was Leinster had it up during the week, and it was kind of like, oh, he's not big enough to play URC. Was it Scarlets they were playing? They were playing one of the Welsh
It was
teams.
one of the Welsh sides anyway.
Yeah.
He absolutely mills him, doesn't
He
he?
absolutely minced them, and he goes, oh, maybe he is big enough.
Yeah,
you know?
I remember I saw the clip around about. It's very good.
Yeah, it's a very good clip, and it's nice to see him, like Nace Rugby, obviously, another Kildare man, Jimmy O'Brien as well.
Too,
so so it's, look, I was delighted just to see him in because I think he deserves a chance, but obviously some strange calls as well. Like I said, we were talking about James Hume this time last year, who was playing well, and he's just, injuries can just, leave you obsolete nearly. That's how fickle the game has gone. Good from an Irish point of view that we've players that can replace players, and of the same calibre, but then when you're a player, I can only imagine it's really detrimental to your confidence and where you stand.
There's one, I thought like, I couldn't even did a piece there last week saying like Treadwell could feel hard done by. He did everything that was asked of him. Yeah. Like he was the finisher, but now they've almost gone for the potential Joe McCarthy ahead of what they know Treadwell can do. Like so that the dice has been rolled on McCarthy a little bit, and I think because McCarthy had played so well in that Munster game, that was almost like his audition, and he passed it. So. That was
I think he's a better baller though.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing.
Because
like,
he's a freak as well, as in we've never seen anything like as big and strong as this guy is, and they're kind of like you see the future and the potential this guy could be. Like they were comparing him to Backy's Bota, like a new enforcer, which is something we haven't had. I don't think ever or in a very long time. But something I'd love to see in the suggestion. I'd love to see for any of the games or whatever game it is. I'd love to see a partnership of McCluskey and Ringrose. With the form that Ringrose is in, and with someone at McCluskey to be able to, like, he's just. Anytime he runs at the ball, it takes 5 guys to stop him. He's beautiful offer, beautiful pass. I think he'd bring Gary into the game and let Gary just be magic as what we've seen all season. So I'd like to see that, because maybe if Bundy hasn't been playing too much, Robbie isn't fit at the moment, Clusky Ringrose could be the
It was an interesting, because actually I'd kind of, even in my own, I'd put in the script, like we'll talk about our Irish backline. We've always naturally just kind of come to it as well. Like it's going to be Sexton. Actually, I was saying the lads from JOE.ie are over at the Six Nations launch today. They sent us a picture of Johnny Sexton there. He's doing the media this morning, and his cheek is looking immaculate.
Fabulous.
Yeah,
I think
better
I
than
knew
ever.
that well, Botox will do that for you.
It's Botox to bits. Like, so he's
reeling back the years.
He's actually looking younger than ever. Yeah, so it'll be him and Jemison Gibbs Park. It'll be Ringrose in the centre. We know it'll be Hugo Keane in fullback. And then I'm thinking, it's hard to tell with James Lowe. It's kind of up in the air, but definitely Mac is going to be on one of the wings. As we're saying, maybe Stewart or Bundy. And then I'm starting to think Jimmy O'Brien now maybe could get in there. Like,
high five, Pat. That's what I'm thinking.
Let's just go and do it.
In fairness, Jimmy's been in excellent form for the last few weeks. He was brilliant again against Racing. Was brilliant against even that URC game against Ospreys. Like, do you know what I mean? He's been in excellent form. So if Lowe wasn't there, I would definitely have Jimmy in on the other wing. 100%.
And he has that left foot.
He's the outstanding candidate. He is 100% the outstanding candidate for that wing spot without a doubt.
Yeah, that's good. And then I suppose just so Connacht fans don't kill us, and we don't kind of breeze through it. Finlay Bealham will probably be like definitely
hero.
Yeah, like and he'll be probably on the bench for Ireland as well. Him and Tom O'Toole always fight it out for that tight head spot. But yeah, hat trick. A hat trick from him. He got man of the match as well, considering that they kind of lost, like by a fair chunk. Like, it's good for them. But the shame for Connacht was they couldn't get that extra, either a losing bonus point or a try scoring, and that would have got them a home last 16 tie as well. So
they're just
now
so
they have to travel away. Yeah.
They're like that talented younger brother. You're like, just concentrate, will you? Just concentrate. And do you know what? Now on that, I thought it was a missed opportunity now with the women's Interpros. Like, I would have liked to have seen maybe a double header. They kind of aligned it that the girls played it in the sports ground while the lads were away.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, that's a pity, because it's actually a special place, sports ground, even though it's so small.
Yeah.
The heads groundman, Stephen, gave me a free hat. He was gorgeous. Like, they're just gorgeous.
I saw your
people.
hat. Yeah.
Yeah, he gave it. I was slagging him because I was freezing. I was like, any chance you give me your hat? And he says, I'm going to Dublin in 20 minutes. I will. And he came back with a beautiful Connacht hat. So Stephen and the groundsman at Connacht, thank you very much.
Oh, nice.
I think it's key as well to have Bealham coming in and playing 4-on-1, because Tadhg Furlong's going to the Six Nations cold. Tadhg Furlong hasn't played in a while, and they said, like, in the most recent update, was it 2 weeks ago or a week ago, that when they said Johnny was going to be fit, they said Tadhg's going to be fit before the Six Nations. So even if he is fit, I don't think you're going to get more than like maybe 50 minutes out of him, because especially if he starts against Wales.
Yeah.
Or even if he doesn't start against Wales, we can start Bealham because we know he's in form, which is good, and you need that. You really do.
I think he needs game time, really, doesn't he? Because I mean, Tadhg is kind of injury prone is the wrong word, but I mean, he is susceptible to long bouts of when he gets injuries, he's out for a few weeks.
Back kind of stuff,
And an area we're short as well. Looking around the rest of the provinces, we don't have too many outstanding tight heads. And
Bealham he's kind of standing up as a ball player. He is kind of evolving into what Tadhg Furlong is. Like, he's a baller and a smart rugby player, and that's what if we can get him a bit of game time, a bit of confidence, I think he can bring that into Ireland, because he's starting to show that now in Connacht. He likes kind of that bit more in the loose, and he's getting confidence to play. So
it's good.
Tom O'Toole as well probably needs a man who needs a bit of game time, a bit of confidence.
I remember talking to Willie Anderson about him, and he would kind of done he'd be in charge of the Ulster Academy, and this is like maybe the start of last season. He had such high hopes from him, and that's not to say that he hasn't done it. He's an in-Ireland squad again. He came off the bench and did well again, but it's like everyone for the last year or two has just been waiting for him just to kick onto that next level.
It's tough when you're going up against the best tight head in the world, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think the mad thing about it as well is, like, we've seen it in the past before, that Porter and Furlong, when they're fit and firing, they can play 80 minutes if you want to, and not skip a beat. That's how good they are.
So hard.
I mean, like, playing 80, like, I've seen Furlong and I've seen Porter do it. Play 80 minutes of high intensity test level rugby in the front row. That is, like, freakish.
Unheard of, because the amount of work they're getting through.
It's freakish. And they've done it like more than once, which is incredible. Like, but no, it's nice to have a few deputies there, like, and have our own little bomb squad.
100%.
Yeah. And Lindsay, you were saying that you were over in the sports ground. I saw some lovely photos on Instagram. You had some good crack when you were over there.
Yeah, we had great crack, and obviously a lot of the railway girls were mixed in, and even family in the crowd, like Sonia McDermott, and obviously her sister Aoife was playing for Leinster. There was a bit of crack there, and I was chatting to the parents. I was like, oh, the favourite child, you came to watch her. So just always a lovely time, and myself and Alison Miller caught up, and Ciara Griffin was there. So actually a lot of the old and new connected, and it was lovely to see the likes of Dorothy Wall, Maeve Ogue, like the Munster background were exceptional. Like we're talking about Gary Ringrose's offload. Dora had a lovely support line, and she offloaded to Roisin Ormond, who we gave our Never Stop Competing moment to a couple of weeks ago. And Eilish Cahill came off the bench. I played against her. She's a up and coming tie head with UL Bows, and she had two. They were exceptional in the green zone in the 22. Connacht, Nicole Fowley, 2 crossfield kicks to Clara Barrett. Now, one of them was kind of a Matt Hansen, Jimmy O'Brien-esque, caught it in the air and had so much work to stay inbounds and put it down.
That's not easy.
Not easy at all. I thought she was exceptional. She'd 2 starts, 4 tries. So Connacht, when they put it together and put phases together, they were exceptional, but they lost a couple of injuries with Lisa Marie and Emma Fabi for personal reasons, so they just don't have the depth yet. But Lyndon Jones is their coach, and he had a lot of work with Westport, and I think before the tournament he said there was 15 players through the Talent ID programme. So excellent. There's some healthy stuff coming on. I just would like to see that window of the Interpros. Always this argument, like, where do they fit into the calendar? Yeah. And you put them into a calendar competing with the European Cup, one of the top competitions in the rugby calendar, if you like. we don't want that. You know, when we moved the Women's Six Nations, we saw it grow and evolve, and players.
Huge difference.
Huge
Huge difference. Why they're doing it again this year, like, and we've been clamouring for that for years, kind of like, you can't put them up against each other. We don't want to put them up against each other because we want to watch both of them.
100%. And like some of the offloading, like we talk about offloading, like Munster, I thought they were exceptional. And I wanted to chat to Niamh Briggs after and Fiona Hayes to see, is this something that they wanted, or they just kind of, well, they did it against Leinster as well. They kind of grinded out a win. But yeah, as I said, the tip-ons, the soft shoulders, the gain line, the momentum, the running support lines. Nicole Cronin was kicking. They played out of their 22. They kind of isolated, short side, 2-on-1s. So I thought some of the rugby on show was exceptional. Yeah. And that's where I'm like, opportunity missed. But the visibility with Vodafone coming along, TG Carr. Yeah. So there's so many positives. I just wish we could have double headers, align it. Connacht did really well with all their media. All of the provinces did. So it was lovely to see that equality. Yeah. Just don't put it against the big competition. But yeah, it was great. It was a great day.
The only thing when I was thinking about it is like it's great. Everyone starts getting into it, and then it's over. Like, is there a way? Like, I'd love for them to even think about going back to back, like, you know, like playing 6 games instead of 3 games and stuff like that, and then there's real decent competition for a while, like, because it's like, just as it's getting going, then it's over again. Like, you know, would you think there's any scope for something like that?
Thank you, Patrick. You need to sit on a committee to help evolve this competition. It's another question. Where do they fit in? What's their purpose? Yeah. And I think, again, so I'm chatting to little ones, right? They're from Ballinrobe, they're from Ballyhaunis. You're kind of thinking, oh, yous are normally, you know, have a round ball and you're looking for an All-Ireland. And Portumna was represented with Connacht. So this talent ID has spread it across the West. So these young women need to see their idols playing in front of them. Yeah. You know, they need, the stand was full. There was 1,500 people there. The atmosphere was great. So again, lots of positives. But 3 games, it's over. Yeah. Where's the development? Yeah. Where are we going to see it as a good competition? Now the Celtic Cup will go on. I'd like to see what this is going to do. But I think maybe it needs to be at the start of the season and use it as a talent ID competition, because again, your Irish players are playing club, they're playing provincial, they're playing internationally. The load on them, and then you've other players then are obsolete. So, yeah, I think back-to-back games, I think a semi-final, a final. Yeah. And until we evolve it and grow the player pool, that has to be done for now. And I'd probably put it at maybe the start of the season, really, to get the season kicked off as a launch, or at the end of the season. But I think, you know, AIL is finished and we're into January, and I said there's nothing happening. So yeah, I'd like to see the extension of the games. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see it. Even then again, like speaking of the women's game as well, like I saw just a tweet at the weekend as well, like the women's sevens team got into the semi-finals again, and it's like somebody even said inevitable that Ireland are going to be in the last 4 at this stage. Like, that's how well that they've all done with that bit of investment there as well. Like, so they came 4, I think the men came 6. So like, they're consistently doing well now as well, which is great to see as well. And it's an Olympic year for them. So it'll be interesting to see now the Six Nations squad, because I don't see any of the sevens being released, because if they can get qualification for their Olympics through the World Series, it'll obviously make a lot of difference, and that's their goal now this year. So again, lots of positives, but like, yeah, the sevens kind of went under the radar again. Do you know? It's just like, can we align this calendar? Do you mind if I give a shout out? Because there's a couple of... I was even going to say, like, anyone that you could kind of even think might have pushed through and, you know, like, or came through. Yeah, definitely get some shout outs there. We did a couple of... Well, I won't talk too much, because I do Jason talk too much. Me and Jason will go off to get a coffee here, yeah? No, we're going to do a couple of retirements from the provinces. Ilse van Staden for Ulster, Kate Sheehan, Laura Feely-Murray, Coyne Mary Healy. So that's Ulster, Munster and Connacht. Really long-standing servants. They've been exceptional, so I want to just give them a shout and a congratulations to the girls. For those who stood out, Stephanie Noonan for UL, or for, she's a UL player, but she for Munster. Roisin Norman, I thought, for a loose head, you know. Eilish Cahill come on as tie head. So again, young players coming through. Clara Barra, I thought, was exceptional. But Fabi, Ava Ryder would have come up through Westport. Great young players. Nicole Fowley, she's been around a long time, but I thought she had a great tournament. For Leinster, probably Aoife Dalton, Ella Roberts at full back. And yeah, I just thought there was a couple of young players come up, you know, the Jamie Owsers of this world. So there's some lovely talent coming up through under 18 programs, and we can kind of see them coming to the top now. So I won't take up any more time. The future is green. The future is great. Every week I was checking on it. Her one Derval, Nicky Bard was scoring a try or two every week. Yeah, Pat, I'm glad you did that in. Derv was exceptional. She was exceptional for Belleville throughout the year. I thought she was absolutely head and shoulders above the rest. She got player of the match there for Munster. She was very humble in it. but some of her line breaks, some of her all-round play, she's exceptional in the loose, and she's just a woman oozing confidence at the moment. And I was kind of asking her that post-match, I was like, you seem like you're in love with the game again, and is this like impacting your performance? I'd love to see her back in an Irish jersey. She's kind of like that Dan Sheehan, great in the loose, but we need her kind of really honing in now as a hooker, because I can't see it's too competitive for back row international, but I'd love to see her back in there. Yeah,
brilliant. And then just for the never stop competing moment of the week with Bank of Ireland, I was thinking of giving it to Greg O'Shea for trying to break his ass to get over to Dunleary now to talk to we have to keep an eye to see whether he got over there in time so we can have that interview in next week's show. Greg would be. Actually, we'll probably look at it. Yeah. He'll probably just not a bead of sweat on him. He'll just be a complete professional. But
he'll just ooze in there. Cool, just like he's floating.
He's like a swan with the legs kind of kicking away under the surface. But I was going to give it to Gavin Coombs because we're talking about Joey Carbery missing out on the Ireland squad, but that happened to Coombs there earlier in the season, and he's come back in great form. So he was challenged, and the mantle was thrown down, and he picked it back up. And as part of that brilliant Munster try again, he had just outrageous out the back kind of offload, and then Shane Daly did the same thing. I'd like to give it to him.
And he's a natural born try scorer as well. And you want guys like that in your team, so it's good to see him back in there.
You absolutely do. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Was it you who tipped him for the squad, or was it Greg? Wanted him in?
I can't remember actually. But
I think you guys were saying and the fact that he can cover second, and so it'd be interesting to see if he. I'm a big fan of his, so I'd love to see him get a crack at one of these Six Nations games.
Would you put him in second row if you couldn't get him in back? Because Jesus,
I'd love to see him in I'd love to see him in at 8 alongside Josh and Doris.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that'd be a nice trio there for him.
Could be starting against Wales. That'd be nice.
You never know. But you're leaving Pete out there, and you're leaving out Jack Cohen. So it's ridiculous that the depth that we have. But whatever triumvirate we put out, I'm sure will be quite good.
All right, I'm going to have a crack at my first outro of the year. It could be the last outro of the year if I got completely botched it.
You have this.
Right, so just pretend. All right, that's it for today. All right, we did really well, I think. Great, the four of us kind of managing to get this ship into port at the end and docked there. So thanks everybody for listening and for watching as well. And a big thanks to our sponsors, Bank of Ireland, proud supporter of the 4 Irish provinces. We'll catch you next week. Cheers. I was going to let you do all that, but then I was like, now I'm in the host chair.
Right, you know what?
I think I got power hungry.
You're wearing that new sweatshirt. You go for it.
Joe presents House of Rugby, together with Bank of Ireland, proud supporter of the 4 Irish provinces.